Greetings of the season and welcome to the 1904 Club, the Hull City podcast from the Hull Daily Mail. Let's do it all again. Morning, Burnsy. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. You've gone festive already, haven't you? But yeah. Morning, everybody. Looking forward to the chat.
We're well into December now.
Insight and inspiration.
Fletch.
Looking for insight and inspiration.
Come to the wrong place then, Burnsy, unfortunately.
You're not going to get that here.
I know,
We've got Fletch and Prutts with us, as always. Fletch, how are you?
I'm all right. Made it back from Needham Market in the National League North at the weekend. Scarborough have only 13 fit players.
Were you buying half a pound of spuds?
Where is Needham Market?
It is 10 miles north of Ipswich.
And that's in the National League North. Can you?
Yep. There are 24 clubs geographically more southern than Needham Market. And in a week and a half time, I'm off to Hereford.
Which is in the National North?
Which is in the National North. And I've been to Oxford City, which is in the National North.
I mean, there's a pod right there. I mean, what teams are actually in the South? Like, anyone that's actually southern based? Truro, Penzance.
But yeah,
coming up on the National League North podcast.
I know, yeah. There's a real gap in the market.
There is a Needham market for it.
Speaking of a gap in the market, we've got Prutts coming to a lovely hotel room somewhere in the country.
Yeah, it also looks the way that I've framed the camera with that and this, like I'm looking through a serving hatch in a 1970s kitchen. Sat there going, I've double egg and chips, 2 mugs of tea,
and a beef burger.
The beef, all for breakfast. Thanks.
Yeah. So let's very quickly discuss the big news of the week. Hull City beaten at Middlesbrough, but they did score a goal. So, you know, if you're looking for small crumbs of comfort for the 1,100 or so that made the trip to the Riverside Stadium on Saturday, seeing Mason Burstow score his first goal was a particular highlight. And at that moment, you thought, I hope they've got half a chance of getting back in the game here that they'd been played out of. But alas, that didn't happen, and it was a 3-1 defeat, a 5th straight defeat for the first time in 2 years. 10 games now without a win. You know, you can try and butter it up as much as you want, but it doesn't look great, does it? And City need a manager, don't they, Burnsy?
They do. You probably know better than us where they're at with it, though Prutts might have some information because he talks to lots of people in football, lots of people on his show. They need to get it sorted, but I get the impression that they're sensibly perhaps taking the time about it. I thought that there was an interesting story from Alan Nixon in the Sun today saying Mark Robins will take it, but he doesn't want to go through the CV and interview process. So basically, you know what I can do. If you want me, give me the job. I'm not jumping through hoops for you. Seems to be the suggestion. I'm sort of paraphrasing it there. I don't know what you feel about that, Prutts.
I think if anyone's got enough currency in the bank to be able to potentially say that, if he said it, then I would say Matt Robins does. You would look at his most recent body of work and you'd be able to see how he approaches football matches, how he leads a football club, how he interacts with players, fans and ownership. So I can understand that. The other part of me also understands that in this day and age that the interview process is very much can very much make or break a manager, whether it's one coming in who's experienced but doesn't interview well, or one coming in that's a little bit wetter behind the ears and blowing people away in the interview, and suddenly you get someone with a job who potentially it wasn't straight on looking at us but comes in and does a decent job. So when you said about who is out there, I think there's quite a straight line between Hull City and Mark Robins. If the money's right and he's allowed to run the football club in the way that he wants to, that to me would seem relatively straightforward. Don't get me wrong, I've got no grasp of what the intricacies are, but I do know there can be stumbling blocks that can come out of nowhere. Whether it's even down to the terminology, whether he becomes Hull City's next head coach or Hull City's next manager. The Hull City want a head coach, don't they? That's the way they've kind of structured the setup. Whether Mark's capable or wanting to work as a head coach might be a different thing. Whether he's got a staff ready to take in. We know that he works very well with Adi Vivash for a long time. They parted ways for one reason or another. And that was potentially the beginning of the end of Mark at Coventry. So maybe there's something that side that he'd need to look at. We mentioned Matt Bloomfield. That's another one. I think that would be a different course of action. That would be the interview process and working out what he's doing so well with Wycombe, whether he can transport it over to what he's doing at Hull City. And then the other one that we mentioned with Steve Cooper, which I think, with the greatest respect to Mark, is a bit more of a dreamlike scenario, if that makes, because you are talking about a man that was managing the Premier League a fortnight ago. So for him to come to Hull City would be a major coup. But I think finances and perception of what Steve thinks of where he is in his career and where Hull City fit, with the greatest respect to City, I couldn't see that being the case. But the Robbins one is the one that stands out for us all there to see, I think.
Yeah, I got a whiff of a PowerPoint presentation at one point when you were talking early there about young managers coming in. Baz, where we are, Jukanovic, the former Sheffield United, Watford, Fulham, Partizan Belgrade manager, is favourite. Is there any substance to that, or is somebody just thrown £100 on with a bookie?
Can I, just before you go in there, but that was the one that was in my head. I was trying to drag out the grey matter to remember which one it was, because I was chatting to Conor Hurahan, and because obviously with Jukanovic going into Sheffield United very briefly, and his experience of what he did at Fulham, his experience of Watford, and I'm not saying foreign manager comes into English football and can only operate in and around the M25. But it felt like fish out of water territory when he took over at Sheffield United, because just very strong identity as a football club, very much like Hull City. And I'm not saying because he's this cosmopolitan coach that he couldn't settle into a place like Hull, because as we know, Hull's we all know it, we all love it. It's got its own little idiosyncrasies, but it's not Fulham, is it? It's not Watford. It's not attached to the capital. So possibly something like that, because I think to get the job right, whoever it is going to have to jump in and embrace the whole situation.
Prutts, what did, out of interest, before we come on to what Burnsy was asking, what did Conor have to say?
Well, it just very much, again, very much almost not you had a manager there going and kind of scratching his head as if to say, what is this and where am I? But he could tell there was almost a semblance of being very surprised about what Sheffield was and as a city, and not quite buying into what the club was, because it's the identity of the fans is absolutely synonymous with that part of South Yorkshire, isn't it? Again, very much like Hull City. What Hull is as a city coming away from the football club, it's a destination place, isn't it? If you're coming through Hull to get anywhere, where you going? Amsterdam, you know what I mean? You're getting on a boat and going back somewhere else. It is end of the line in the best possible sense, because it's such a huge identity, big city, one club city, and you have to get your head around what that particular thing is. So whether that would fit Jukanovic, and this is me second guessing. I've spoken to him possibly once or twice post match, and that was very, very briefly. When he was at Sheffield United, I remember us doing a game where we watched it at Bramall Lane, and just the team looked incoherent. His take on the game was pretty incoherent, and it was very much, well, that's not got much legs in it. And then Paul Heckingbottom comes in and takes the team in a completely different direction. So he's a very genial fella. I mean, he looks terrifying, doesn't he, when you speak to him, because he's about 6.5 foot tall and looks down at you like you've got moments to live. But he was just quite wary of that. And like I said, maybe it's a broad generalisation, but he seemed wary of that particular matchup between identity of city and football club and experience and personality of the manager. And
Prutts as well. He's not managed in the Championship for quite a while now. Obviously, his last promotion was in 2018. He's been out of work since May last year to 2023. That's quite a long time for a manager to be out of work, isn't it? So, but equally, his body of work with Fulham and with Watford is exceptional in getting them promoted. So it's an interesting one, isn't it? There is interest there. There is cast iron interest from Hull City in Slavisa Jokanovic. So, but he's one of 3, 4, 5, 6 managers that they are looking into.
And then the other part about it is, I mean, if you look at the Jokanovic situation, potentially with him coming out of a football club not recently, the finances, of course, dictate quite a lot of this. I've got no idea how a lot of these contracts are structured, but the more I speak to managers, and not betraying any trust here or naming names, there's a lot that, because of PSR rules and financial fair play, as you work your way down the pyramid, I think the days of, right, you're sacked, sod off, here's your lump sum, I don't think they're as prevalent as they were. There's a lot of gardening leave, for want of a better expression. There's a lot of, well, you are not now an employee of the football club, but you might still be. I've had a manager still getting paid 18 months down the line from being sacked. So that then sometimes, if they've got either a very clever lawyer or they've been working with a club that's a bit lax and loose with dotting the I's and crossing the T's, where you get a manager that can go into another football club while still being paid by another one. Sometimes the structure of it is, well, once you get gainful employment somewhere else, this stops, they pick up the slack, and you move on at this new club under a new term of contract. So they might, like I said, I'm second guessing the job that Mark Robins did at Coventry City might mean that there's a hefty payoff there somewhere, which might be huge and structured over several months or seasons. Like I said, I genuinely don't know with that. So Matt Bloomfield, again, another one I keep chucking in because I think he's doing such a good job, and I've got a lot of time from Matt. That might be a different structure because of the football club that he's coming from. Jokanovic could be something completely different. And as for Steve, as I mentioned, and sorry for hogging the first part of the chat with all this, getting sacked at a Premier League club, my God, that is a lucrative business to be in. And that sounds a bit cynical and a bit flippant. Maybe it is a little bit of both, but deservedly so, because you get so much intensity and spotlight put on you that it needs the figures need to add up. And regardless of who it is and which Premier League football club it is, there's a lot of money in that.
And Prutts, he's had 2, hasn't he? He's had Forest and now Leicester, and he would have had a hefty payoff from Evangelos Marinakis at the City Ground, and now Leicester as well. Burnsy, go on. You're vigorously wagging again.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you. Then we're going to allow Fletch to speak and choose the next manager at Hull City, I think. No pressure. Again. That's what would you say the short list of 6 is? If it's 6, 5, 6.
I would say Robins. I would say Jokanovic. I wouldn't be surprised if Alex Neil was on there. I know there's a lot of interest in football in the job that John Eustace is doing at Birmingham City. Interesting, if they don't make an appointment this week, it could be quite an opportunity for him to show on Saturday at the MKM Stadium. But that's taking nothing away from Blackburn, because Blackburn are a good club and they're going very well, and he's doing an absolutely tremendous job there. I was reading. I was sent a link the other day to an interview that Sammy Smodics did about John Eustace and his man management style. And it's basically the complete opposite of what we're hearing about Tim Volter. How Smodics, when Eustace went into Blackburn, he talked to Smodics and basically told him he was the best striker in the league. And Smodics said, even if Eustace didn't believe that to be the case, it made Smodics feel 10 feet tall. He went out and he could perform. Under Jon Dahl Tomasson, the structure of the days off and things weren't great.
Why would he come? Why would he leave Blackburn?
We'll come to that. We'll come to that in just a second. But he was talking. I think one of the first things that Eustace did, he went into Blackburn and gave the players a couple of days off, in the following game they beat Stoke. So that's an example of a good man manager, and that's exactly what City need, whoever that may be. In terms of Eustace, he may not, and that's no disrespect to Blackburn at all, because obviously he's got them well organised and they're on the cusp of the playoffs. So they've had 2 fantastic results in winning away at Middlesbrough last Wednesday and then beating Leeds on Saturday. Why would he come? He may well not. He may well think that Blackburn is a better club. Is a better setup. He's got a better squad of players. He's coming up. He's had a period of time in that job. City's a bit of a basket case. All kinds of troubles. So he may well not.
What you hear though a lot of, and I was just looking. It's a very. I mean, when you look at potentials of who could possibly be in the running, you're talking about championship managers. I mean, like I said, I've already mentioned Matt at Wickham, but the job that someone like a Dave Challoner's doing as well, with a serial kind of promotion winner, incrementally season on season, his teams have finished higher and higher and higher. At some stage, he'll think that he deserves a bite at a bigger cherry further up the pyramid. That's another one. But I do know that Stockport are a very well run football club with good finances and probably wages to match. I mean, another one, Phil Parkinson, doing a cracking job. Of course, all City fans know all about him at Wrexham. But the again, another thing that, because when we all have chance to speak to managers and what the ones that tell you when they are out of jobs or in between jobs, it's not just picking the club, it's picking the owner, isn't it? That's the big thing that they all say. And because we were chatting about Acun on Saturday, and I always do try my best to vouch for him, because there's that lazy stereotype, foreign owner knows nothing about the area, blah 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 blah. I mean, the amount of people that on the outside looking in when Hull City and the Alams was all kind of getting very kind of fractious was, oh, here's another foreign owner, and you're going, well, hang on, do your homework. That man's put the father's put so much money into that part of the world, and he's not a foreign owner that just pitched up and thought, I'll buy a football club. He's a man that's loved the city and invested in the city. Yes, it might have gone slightly different and divergent as it passed down the family. That's a different thing altogether. But looking at what Acun's done, and he's real apparent love for the area and what the team is. Whether Mark Robins is looking at that thinking, can I deal with that type of thing? As much as they might say, well, Mark, we need to see your CV and your interviewing technique. He'll be absolutely sat there going, well, I need to know that I'm going to get time in this job. I need to know that where we're going is as a collective, and that I'm not going to get biffed after 6 months because you don't like the style of what the football is, regardless of what results are. Because this last move with Tim, and obviously we talked about an earlier appointment when he first came in, they're just the little bits that, if you are a manager contemplating throwing your hat into the ring for City, that you've got to work through and get your head around. Because, as I said, he's done so much to put himself under that good owner bracket, first and foremost by actually putting his money where his mouth is, which is, as we've said many times, it's a significant amount of money that he's committed, isn't it? And that needs to be as stable as that type of money flow can be. And these managers that are coming in need to think that time is going to be on the side, because Liam had a fair bit of time. We were all scratching our heads about why he moved on, but then he came out and justified it. And then you kind of go, well, all right, then his football club, he's made a decision. He's told us all why he's done it. What more can we ask for, really? That's kind of what it's been like. Yes, Tan's moved on as well. There's been consternation a bit further upstairs. So I'd like to think that broadly what Acun's done is still make Hull City an attractive football club, not just to players, but to managers. They're not passing it up going, Christ, that looks like it could be, as you say, Baz, a basket case. Because, and I'm not just saying this because we're on a Hull City podcast, there's so much to like about the way that it is run, I feel.
I still think for somebody like Eustace, they might, Hull City are a bigger club than Blackburn Rovers. And I think, as Prutts rightly says, that I think so. I think so. I think City. That's just my gut feeling. I think they're a bigger club. I think if they can get it right, there's the finance. If the finance is there,
it's a big statement.
The manager will be backed in January.
Fletch is frozen on that statement.
So Baz is saying that Hull City are a better run football club than
bigger.
No. I'm not saying I'm not getting into better run, because I'm saying I think Hull City are a bigger club than Blackburn. But not that that's a debate that we necessarily need to have, because I know there'll be one avid listener who will be throwing things at his phone, stroke radio. We all know who he is. And he'll be absolutely raging that I've said that.
Yeah. We'll keep his identity a secret, though, Baz.
But he knows who we're talking about, and he will be smiling when he listens to this. But yeah, I just think City have got a bigger fan base.
Let's cut to the quick of this. Are you saying you think Acun's prepared to approach Blackburn to try and get Eustace out?
I think if there was an opportunity there, but what for me, what it'll come down to is finance, and that is why I think they'll end up appointing somebody that's out of work, largely because they've had to pay off Rossini and his staff, largely because they're having to pay off Walter and his staff, and then to employ, as Prutts touched on with PSR, to then employ another manager that's currently in work, and he'll have to pay, whoever, whether it be Matt Bloomfield, whether it be Eustace, whether it be Ruben Sellers at Reading, whoever the manager may be, whatever club on the planet it may be, there's going to be some compensation. So I think that is a massive stumbling block. And for me, that is probably why it is either, if we're looking at managers based in the UK, it's going to be Robbins, it's going to be Alex Neil, it's going to be Jokanovic, Stephen Schumacher. It will be somebody that's currently out of work because
Ryan Lowe's another one.
Yeah, Ryan Lowe. Although I would think that Abu Kamara and Liam Miller will be having sleepless nights, given the fact that Liam Miller was played at left wing back and he was very unhappy about that under Ryan Lowe. But yeah, if I was putting a pound on a manager, it would be an out of work manager. But I just think somebody like Eustace has done a terrific job. He obviously did a terrific job at Birmingham, but then they sacked him and they got relegated. He's doing a great job at Blackburn, which is a difficult environment given the Venkis and how that club is managed on a day-to-day basis, and all the transfer complete cock-ups they've made in the last couple of years. Deadline day administration. But that, let's call a spade a spade. That's not exactly an example of how to run a football club there either. So I think I like him. I'm a big fan of the work he's doing, the way he manages his players, the way he organises his group of players. But I still come back to the point. I think it will be somebody that's out of work, and we need to go to Fletch because poor old Fletch he's frozen in time. Yeah, frozen. Look at him; he's just frozen.
Hello, it's nice to see you all.
Your mouth's moving, your face isn't. You're like Simon Cowell.
Don't get me started on him. Well, where should we begin? Looking at the idea of managers being available as a free agent, if you like, then I side with you, Baz, and think that it will be someone, as you rightly point out, from a financial point of view, and Prutts points out, is that it's more of a bargain to bring someone in and less time consuming, that sort of thing. I don't agree with the idea that John Eustace would be a good fit, because I think the amount of homework that's done now tactically, regardless of what formation you play and what players you pick, there's going to be that bedding in period of 5 to 6 weeks. And I think it would be too far the other way in terms of tactics for John Eustace, for example, to come in and play in a very aggressive press, long ball style game with a 3-4-1-2, which is possibly why I slightly have some reservations about Mark Robbins, because even though he's been there and done it, has he been propped up by other people as well in terms of style? Yes, they've been able to get really good players in the past. Gyökeres is the prime example. And there are managers out there who play a style which, formation-wise, is more similar to Hull City, but the difference is you've got to take that frame and change elements of it that are away from Tim Volter's style, because Tim Volter's style didn't work. Jukanovic's record, yes, at Sheffield United wasn't particularly great. They had a fallout of coming out of the Premier League, and that's his lowest points per game ratio. The rest of the clubs that he's been at are relatively steady, i.e. something in the region of 1.5, 1.6 across the board. He's had to deal with Watford in the past, who get through. I think they're the only club in the country who get through managers quicker than Hull City, to be brutally honest. I would not turn my nose up at Jokanovic coming in. He's also a person who doesn't really bring players with him, but he has always relatively been given backing to bring players in January, if that's the case. And that's what some of the fans are saying as well. Some of the fans are asking questions like, how many players would the new manager be allowed to bring in? How many come out after what happened in the summer? We'll get into some of those questions in a minute. One manager that I haven't...
Alex Neil.
I wouldn't have Alex Neil personally, no. I don't think... if you compare the numbers of how well he's done in the Championship to Jokanovic for me is better. But then there's other arguments to say, did he have better squads? Were the clubs that they were at comparable, if you like? Was Jokanovic always in the top half? Was Neil trying to build a team from the bottom half into the top half? One manager that has never been mentioned, which I'm interested in, I don't think it would happen, but Robbie Keane, for me, is someone who has had coaching experience in the Championship with Leeds United, plays 4-3-3, has had a dip in the lake of being able to manage a club. He went to Maccabi Tel Aviv and did really, really well. So I don't know if he's going to be anywhere near the recruitment process, but he's one that I wouldn't shy away from. And one we haven't mentioned in the 25 minutes we've been talking, but we mentioned a lot last week, is Ruben Selles. He's the one that still, for me, sticks out as a strong candidate because of all the adversity he's had to go through at Reading.
I must admit, when Reading was, I was in the car yesterday and I was listening to 5 Live, and the score updates were coming in from the Majeski Stadium when they were 2-1 down to Harbour Town. I was sweating a bit, thinking that recommendation for Ruben Selles might get 1 or 2 wins. But anyway, I know you mentioned Robbie Keane the other day. I actually said this a couple of years ago, when around the time that City appointed Rossini, that I felt, I'm not saying Alex Neil is the person I would go to, but I felt Alex Neil, in the situation that City were in, Alex Neil is the kind of profile of manager that City need. Somebody that is a calm influence, just gets on with his work, is organised. The players, he can get the players on board, knows the Championship. And as I've said before, I've written before, City have now gone back 2 years. They are now they are now in the position that they were when Shotta was sacked, and they needed somebody to come in. At risk of repeating myself, but they need somebody to come in and do the job that Liam Rossini did: get the players back on side, get the players believing, get them organised, and get them difficult to beat, because they're not at the minute. They're too easy to beat. Results tell us that. All the stats tell us that. So they have gone back. We're not going to get into the debate about should he or should he have not booted out Liam Rossini, because we've done it to death and it's gone. But the fact is, they have gone back 2 years now. They are in the place they were 2 years ago when Shotta was sacked, and they've got to now claw. It's mad, but they've got to claw that 2 years back, and ultimately they've got to get a manager in that can organise them, can galvanise them, can get the players on side, get the players believing, and start to win Championship football matches. Otherwise, this team is going to get relegated, because they are so easy to play against. They concede so many goals. They cannot score. And that is just a recipe for relegation. I don't care what anybody else says. The stats are there in black and white. They've lost 5 in a row. They've not won a game in 10. You know, they just look you look on Saturday. Yes, they improved. There were some improvements. At times they looked better, but they were still cut to pieces. I think Middlesbrough had 21 shots at goal, and they had something like 10 times as many touches in the City penalty area as City did in the opposition penalty area. And I know Middlesbrough are in form. They've got players like Doak, and they've got Conway and Dykesteel and God knows who else. And they had Latte Lath to bring off the bench in the second half. They've got better players, Middlesbrough. So if better players turn up and play well, they are going to win against less, inferior players. That's just how it works. But that's what City need. So somebody like Alex Neil would be a sensible kind of. He's not going to win any awards for, playing sexy football. But City, I think we've got to shelve the idea of playing attractive football where we're going to win 4-3. We've got to get back to winning 1-0, 2-1, and getting results on the board before it becomes a disastrous season.
Can I throw something in, Baz, on Alex Neil?
Is that not? Go on then.
Go on, Burnsy.
We need to hear from. No, I was going to say, I just wondered, and I want to talk about the owner in a bit, whether sexy football was still at the top of the job requirement. But anyway, Fletch, you were going to make a point.
Yeah, I just want to make this one point, otherwise it becomes redundant. And it's that Alex Neil, when he was at Stoke, had a similar situation where quite a lot of players have been brought in, and they've all come from different areas of the world. And I feel that's the sort of ethos and model that Hull City have had in recent seasons. And I felt that was maybe one contributing factor to why it didn't work for Alex Neil in the end. At Sunderland, it worked really well because they had a young squad and brought players in locally and were able to knit together and have a smaller squad. And I just feel that the setup and the way that City like to go about their transfer business and the squad size would probably not be as beneficial to Alex Neil as other managers.
And Neil did
Alex Neil.
Well, I still think, and this is probably letting managers off the hook a bit with Stoke, I still think an appointment at Stoke is still misleading because, as you say, as you're right to say, Fletch, so many players they've done since dropping out the Premier League. It's the return on what they presume to be what their ambitions are is terrible. Really, I've seen sets of players at Stoke celebrating staying up in the Championship since they went down from the Premier League, which is miles off what that place should be. But he's one of many that's gone through there. I mean, Nathan Jones, Gary Rowett, Stephen Schumacher, obviously Chuck Alex in that. I've never played for Alex, never played against any of his teams. I spent a lot of time with him, listening to him talk about football matches. He's got an incredibly quick and incisive way of summing up what he's seen. I'm not saying just because I think he's a good pundit, therefore he's a good manager for Hull City. Very to the point. Cuts to the quick. Doesn't really suffer fools. He's very committed in his decision making, and understands how he wants to play football and handles everything around it really, really well. So I think the more Baz was talking about it, obviously kind of flying in the face of starting between Fletch and Baz and what they're taking on Alex is. I think it would be an extremely serviceable option for Hull City to get someone like him in, because first port of call now is, as you say, is some form of consolidation and some form of balance to what they're doing. And going to your point, Burnsy, about the style of football, I think, without sounding too cynical, I think we're getting further and further away from that being a genuinely a genuine point that can have real currency to it, because most managers will tell you it's about winning football matches. If you can do it like Liverpool can, brilliant. That also costs you the best part of £1 billion. But a lot of what football is, especially in the Championship, and I'm saying this with nothing but love and the fact that I absolutely adore covering it and having had a very privileged chance to play in it a very long time ago. There is a lot when you're looking at it going, I mean, it's not buying a ticket to the theatre or going to the cinema or going to watch your favourite band. Almost nowadays, and like I said, maybe this is I'm getting old and middle-aged, where entertainment is almost a bit of an afterthought. It's like the first port of call is, as cynical fans, it's please don't be crap today. Please do not be crap today. And then we move on from there. And if you get what it is, to say about the style of football, it's exciting football. The things that we're talking about, Burnsy, the things that you've mentioned so many times under what you've seen of Tim of chaos. Chaos is fine if it's entertaining. Chaos isn't fine if it just looks like it's literally just it just been an absolute maelstrom of trying to work out what this team's doing. So if you bring a manager in that goes, you know what, we're going to get after the opposition, we're going to get crosses into the box, we're going to take shots as and when the positions present themselves, because that's another thing that City haven't been doing. It's pass, and then you move to somewhere else and the chance is gone. Very similar to what Liam was. I think philosophy, we presume that to be a way of playing that it means you start at the goalie, you do 27 passes before you get out of your half, you then do some glorious bit of skill in the opposition half and you score a goal. Philosophy is as much about physically and emotionally how you attack a game to get people's bums off seats, which the main thing that's coming out of all the comments that we read is I pay my money and I'm not seeing anything that's remotely exciting.
I would suggest that when
they're not winning games.
When Alex Neil's Stoke team scored 5 at Sunderland, I would suggest that was pretty exciting. So no, I think he's a good shout. I think he would be exactly what City need. Take on board what you said, Fletch. But he's also won a promotion. You know, I've got reservations about Mark Robins. What's he like without Vivash? Obviously his body of work before Coventry. You know, I know he's been at Coventry for 7.5 years, so maybe that's a bit harsh. George Boateng was involved at Cov, obviously former Hull City. He's left the club as well. That's one. Steve, I saw. I don't know if it was yesterday or today. Steve Cooper being linked with Cardiff, and the suggestion that he would be really keen on going to Cardiff
after being at Swansea.
Yeah, well, but a reservation about his potential relationship with Cardiff, having been at Swansea, given what he's experienced at Leicester, having been at Forest. So, that's Cooper to Cardiff is one to watch. But obviously, he's from Wales, so maybe that change. There will be Hull City fans go, well, hang on a minute. If Cardiff City can attract Steve Cooper, what the hell are Hull City playing at? But perhaps location is a thing within that. Go on, Burnsy, you're ready.
I want to raise a point from Richard Heath that's sent out, which I think is very pertinent. He sent us to the 1904 club. Just before we go to absolutely bang on, Prutts, whatever a manager does at Stoke, then you almost discount, because it seems to be set up for failure there. So I would keep Schumacher very much in the fray, given what he did at Plymouth. I mean, he's a good shout and might be a good fit. But I think part of the nub of the matter, and Richard Heath to the 1904 Club touches on this, because in terms of what's already been said, but we've not discussed it in depth, Richard Heath says we need someone who's prepared to stand up to the owner, who clearly wants to influence the team selection. Swanee said as much on Saturday. And I was listening to Swanee on Saturday, and he basically said the owner is having too much influence. And that, I think, will be a factor for any future. Now, I don't know whether you disagree with that or not, but the owner is hands-on. Who wants to take that little hot potato? Or two hands?
Go on. Is there any truth in that, Baz? Because if it gets to the point where he is in that position, and you've got to take each situation on its own merits, but from what I know of Acun's business interests and his career thus far, I don't think there's a huge portion of it that involves putting teams out and formations and picking and recruitment, does it? I mean, and if he is, if we are getting to the stage like that, then that's dangerous territory to move into, because then that becomes asset/football club as plaything for wealthy man, doesn't it? That's not. And again, always caveat with he's putting huge sums of money into the football club, but is there any suggestion at all that he would have A, the ability, B, the experience, or any kind of inclination of how to actually do that? Because if an owner knows how to put a football team together and he owns a football club, then part of me's going, well, sod it. If you can do it, then please crack on and pick a team that wins football matches, because that's all that Hull City fans want. But if it's done in a bit of a kind of luxury goods type situation where, I think we should do that, and I think, well, and if you don't play him, then this might happen. If we're starting to knock on the door of that territory, then that is very, very dangerous, I think.
Before I answer that, go on, Fletch, because you've got a point to raise.
Well, I just want to throw it in with a side of caution. When I had conversations when Shotta was in charge, and there was I think a distinct possibility that it wasn't the case that the owner was picking the side, but I think the owner was having what you would call maybe recommendations of what he would have preferred. Not necessarily saying, I'm not happy that you picked this side, but that was what I heard at the time. However, you could argue that other managers in the league, with their philosophies, could argue that they bring a manager in the first place to play a certain style. But then, of course, I don't think it was the case that Acun was picking the team. Would never say that with confidence.
The thing with this as well, I think it's very much down to the specific manager. If he brings Jukanovic in, Cooper in, Mark Robbins in, any of those three, he's got absolutely zero say on the side. And if he does, they won't be there for that long. If he brings a Matt Bloomfield in, potentially, and that's, again, not casting aspersions on Matt's ability to manage a football club, but it's that first step up. We can have this job in the Championship, which is lovely, but it might be in these parameters. Shotta gets nowhere near Hull City without that man owning the football club. So Shotta will probably go, whatever, gaffer. I mean, I'll say one thing, and if that's the case, we'll keep this on the down. The same with Tim Volter. Yes, with the greatest respect to their CVs thus far, we are talking about Hull City in a certain position in the Championship, in the second tier of English football. The second tier of English football is still way more lucrative, way more attractive to most divisions on the planet. Obviously, we know where the Premier League stands in it, but because obviously the finite number of jobs available at that particular level, the potential that every single football club in the Championship has got to have that £200 million payday at the end of the season, that's what makes it such an unbelievably attractive position to be in, even if it's Hull City sat in the bottom three. But there are certain managers make these left field appointments that I think possibly would be brought in on the understanding and assumption that you will manage my football, you will coach this team, but there'll be a lot of input into what you do to coach this team. But like I said, the currency in the bank for a Cooper, for a Robbins, for a Jukanovic means that I don't think that would be the case. I understand we're talking hypothetically as well before we get into any form of chat that is in any way kind of libelous or defamatory, but that I think those managers that have done it in the Premier League and chuck Liam, in English football, and chuck Liam Rossini into that, I think that they would be allowed / afforded the luxury of managing it in the way that they see fit.
Pat, I know you'll have insight on this. Just in fairness to the owner, I think back to the Pandor situation. He obviously wanted Pandor in the team under Liam Rossini. Liam Rossini said, no, don't rate him. He's wanted him, but in fairness to Acun, he said, well, it's the manager's decision ultimately. Pandor's now in the team after a shaky start, and in fairness, he's probably been consistently the best player this season.
Yeah,
just thinking off the top of my head. But Baz, where we are, is the owner too hands-on here? I know he's having an influence on who's bought and everything like that. Is he having an influence on the team selection?
I think in the past, look, I think in the past from what I've spoken to people at the club and at other clubs as well, and I think owners that have direct relationships with managers will often discuss team selection. They'll often discuss player form. They'll make recommendations. You know, we've signed striker X for £10 million and he's not in the team. Why is that? And then the manager says, well, because in training he's gaff, or he's not doing this, or he's that. So I don't think that's. I think the manager owner having a conversation about team selection and player form and all that sort of stuff is unreasonable. You know, if a manager wants a certain type of player, he goes to the owner and says, well, I want a number 8. And the owner goes, well, you've got 3 number 8s. And the manager goes, well, yeah, but 2 of them are injured and one of them, well, whatever. So I think that's normal conversation. I think last season, obviously, we saw it, as you said there, Burnsy, with Panda. Acun felt that Panda was a really talented young goalkeeper, and I think he felt that Ryan Allsop was making errors and to the detriment of the team results. So I think he had conversations with Liam that Panda should be playing. Liam disagreed, so that was fine. Acun, I know this because I had conversations with him a lot during the season last season when City were playing without a centre forward, and it was annoying a lot of the fans. And you know, Acun was not overly impressed that the team were playing, you know, often with Ozan Tufan as the furthest, as the most attacking player, almost as a false 9, and he wasn't happy with that. But that was the manager's decision. So I don't doubt that over the course of time, he's had conversations with his managers, and maybe during Burnsy, you're right, with Shotter Arveladze, as much as he was a great bloke and the players, you know, got on really well with him, he would never have got a look in at that job until Acun took over. So maybe there were conversations between Acun and Shotter and about teams back then, but under Liam, you know, no chance, because Liam was his own man, had his own staff, and if Acun was picking the team, Panda would have played from the first day, and he would have played whoever, whether it be a kid from the academy. Acun would have had a number 9 up front, and that often didn't happen. And I'm not entirely convinced that you know, Tim Volter would have allowed the owner to have picked the team either. So I think I don't know for sure. I can't sit here and say hand on heart that Acun's never had influence in team selection, because you know he is very hands on. So you'd never rule it out. But he certainly doesn't. He certainly doesn't sit there on a Friday afternoon and go, right, I'm playing you and you. It's very much down to the manager. But he does have a huge influence on the football club, and he is very different to a lot of owners in the fact that he is you know, he can be a lot, you know, much more hands on than perhaps a lot of clubs are used to. But yeah, Prutts is right. If you're bringing in a Mark Robbins, a Steve Cooper, an Alex Neil, a Schumacher, a Jukanovic, they will listen to the owner because the owner pays the bills and pays the salary, and the owner, you know, in that sense, has a right to express his opinion. Of course he does, as we all do. I'm not sure that what Acun says, well, actually, I want you to play Chris Beddy on Saturday instead of João Pedro, that suddenly the manager's going to go, yeah, all right, I'll do that. The manager is the one that sees them in training all week. The manager is the one that knows what's going on in their life away from football and how effective they can be on the pitch and off the pitch. You know, so the manager ultimately has to make that final call. He, as I say, he will listen to what the owner's got to say. They will have robust conversation, I'm sure. but ultimately it has to come down to the managers say so in picking the team. Go on, Benji.
Yeah, I was going to say if he says Chris Beddier should play in place of Pedro on Saturday, I'd vote for that. I just like this from Ian Charlton, who sends us a tweet on the 1904 Club. I want the job, Burnsy, but I'm not prepared to be interviewed for it. Which is fair enough, Ian. I think Ian's CV stands the test of any serious examination. That woodwork. Oh, that woodwork GCSE will get you a long way. Ian, thank you for sending a message to the 1904 Club. What else have we got?
It sounds like the classic Rodney Trotter's got a GC in art, doesn't it? And he could go and be
maths at that.
Briar Patches. Go on.
You crack on.
No, I was just going to read just one more for now. The trouble for me is, says Briar Patch, when a team is in free fall, the way to arrest it is to put up a solid defensive performance to attempt to not concede. A 0-0 at Borough would have been a beginning. Where is Warren Joyce when you need him? Says Briar Patch. Back to you, Baz.
Yeah, well, Boothroyd to Wembley asked us a couple of days ago, how was this? So basically, this comes on the back of. We spoke to Mason Burstow on Saturday, who scored a really good goal seconds after coming on. Obviously, came from Chelsea in the summer, hasn't really had a look in. He spoke to him at length at the weekend, and he was very critical in his own way of Walter's management style. How he wouldn't listen to anything he got to say. That the manager, he basically gave him a short shrift. And as a young player, he couldn't understand Burstow why the manager wouldn't give him any pointers as to how he could get on the pitch, how he could play more. Really, really heartfelt interview. And obviously we've heard from Casey Palmer, who essentially said the same thing. We've heard from Regan Slater during Walter's tenure about his man management. Things are obviously naturally, and fans always ask this question, and Prutts probably can add meat to the bones. Fans always say, well, why do players in interviews always say everything's good? Because they're not going to bite the hand that feeds. They've got to toe the party line. But obviously when a manager goes, they feel, enabled to maybe speak and give an honest opinion, because it's not going to impact their career at the football club. And Burstow was very, very honest, and you just felt sorry for him because he's a kid. He's had a really, really tough life, Burstow. Without getting into it, if you want to find out more, go and, it's all online. He's done loads of interviews to talk about it. Came from Chelsea in the summer, hasn't played, hasn't been given a chance. When he has been given a chance, it's been out wide right. That's not his position. He's a 9. He was signed as a 9. Anyway, I digress. So Boothroyd to Wembley. How was Walter, allowed to stay so long? Perfect opportunity to sack him before the international break. Does Acun know what's going on at the club behind the scenes? Huge worry. He seemed unaware of how things were. Interesting question. I think the long and short of it is, I think Acun would have been aware of certain things, because obviously he speaks to some players, maybe not quite as much, given Ozan Tufan is no longer at the club. I knew he spoke to Ozan. Ozan had a direct line to him most days. Obviously, Dokan's not been in and around much recently. He's back out injured again. Abdouche as well is there. But, Acun has been around, but perhaps not as much as previously. And I'm not casting any aspersion on. He's a busy guy. He's got a lot going on. I wouldn't expect him to be at the training ground every day, and that isn't a healthy thing either. Players, let's make it clear. Players would not want the owner sniffing around the training ground. They wouldn't want directors sniffing around the training ground every single day, because the players, Prutts, would want it as a sterile environment for themselves and the coaching staff, right?
Yeah, and sometimes an owner that's too matey, that sets a manager up for a fall. I think he would have known pretty much exactly what was going on. I don't know for a fact, but the modern day footballer has way more straightforward links to ownership than I think we ever did 20 odd years ago.
Yeah.
So that'll be absolutely a communication line that would always be open. I think maybe there might have been a part of him hoping that it would turn the corner, because you've got to have faith in that man that you've gone through a process to a point. And then there's that fine line between going too early and then thinking it's too late. And ownership of the football club is it covers obviously so many things, and to not and for players to be able to come out and say what they feel. And you're absolutely right. I mean, we do interviews all the time, and when you know for a fact that things are going tits up, and you listen to a player going, "Oh, well, we're doing this," and you sat there going, "That's obviously rubbish," but you would be idiotic at best to cane that person that has got power to put you in the team in the next couple of days, wouldn't you? Oh no, I think his man management's crap, his training's rubbish, and he's not talking to me. Well, that's a big black mark through your name until that manager moves on. And as you say, listening to the way that Mason's spoken and what his life experience has been, there's almost a dereliction of duty there from the manager to not know how to handle that specific person, not the player, that specific person. All players need different things. It's akin to running a creche for very highly charged adolescent males that have got so many different dynamics and different people coming at them, that a real skill in a manager. And Liam had it in spades, didn't he? That empathetic side of being able to deal with how that player reacts, what that player needs. And that's why they take all of this on board. It's a never-ending series of problems that need to be answered. So I'm a little bit disappointed that that's been the case. I'm happy that the players can feel emboldened enough to be able to say it now. And to be brutally honest, given what football is and how it's about the here and now, if he has been like that, there'd be a vast portion of those players that will not care one jot that a man's been sacked and lost his job. They will be, see you later, mate. Look at the, it's a slightly different thing. And I understand that we've been mentioning Steve Cooper a lot. He gets biffed. They're all in Copenhagen getting smashed with people that are holding signs up about missing Enzo Maresca. King's dead, long live the king. I hated him anyway, bugger off. There will be categorically players in that Hull City side that are so glad that he's gone because of what's been happening and the way it is. I'm not saying that he's been a dictator or he's been an awful person or manager or anything like that at all. I just think it's highly kind of amplified the emotions in a football team. No winning, 5 defeats on the spin, no winning 10. Oh, it's obviously the manager's fault. See you later. Let's pick up where he's left off with the new boss.
Go on, Burnsy. I know we're starting to run out of time now. So,
all right. I was only. It's quite a big question. Just one other name from to the 1904 club from Chris King, Roy Keane. On the overlap, stick to football. He often talks about getting back in, and I think realises the Championship is the best he's going to get. He did a good job at Sunderland, but is that too long ago? And as Ipswich blotted his copybook, I'd pay to see Roy Keane come to Hull City. I think that would be
on that subject.
I don't see it happening.
On that subject, Fletch, before I come to you, another manager trying to get his name back out there, a certain Billy Davis, Prutts. He's been back around saying he wants a job in football.
He's been podcasting as well, hasn't he? I mean, I obviously mine and Roy Keane's paths don't cross necessarily at Sky because he's busy off doing all kinds of stuff. But from the outside looking in, as much as there's that professional fire in the belly, I would assume he's doing way too well to chuck himself back into that. And obviously, given what we saw with that chat that he had with an Ipswich fan last week, can you imagine being stood behind the dugout and you shouted, Guido, your team's rubbish. Next minute, he's offering you out in the car park. Or offering you out for a chat in the car park is what I heard. So it'd be, I would just think, it would be combustible, Burnsy. It would be amazing. You'd have sound bites, Baz, coming out your ears. But it would, I mean, it's got all the makings of it being a slightly concerning time for the football club, wouldn't it, if that was the case?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Keno is somewhere that would work. Go on, Fletch. What you had something to make.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to just add something on about Bairstow and the player situation, if I may. I thought listening to the interview and reading what you'd put, Baz, it was incredibly telling, and you feel sorry for them.
Just sad. He's a young player.
He's a young player. One of the questions that Mike White put to him was the follow-on from what Regan Slater had opened up and said. And Mason said that he wanted to ask Tim Volter about playing time. He said, I wasn't getting anything back. And he actually used the phrase, there was a feeling of giving up in terms of when it comes to speaking to hierarchy. So what does that tell you about the environment of the football club from a player point of view? And Bairstow said, going forward, that he wants he'd like someone to be a little bit less lenient. Let have a manager who can accept that a player is human and not wants them to, but can accept if a mistake is made in terms of either giving the ball away or whatever. But the thing is that two people that haven't really been mentioned in all of this, it's all been at Tim Walter, is if you can't go to Tim, why couldn't they go to Julian or Philippe?
Well, they did. This is the thing. So Julian was actually a really nice fella. There was an interview that he did in the latter stages of what turned out to be the tenure, and he spoke about being the good cop and that Tim would often rub people. He actually admitted that Tim would often rub people up the wrong way and would be quite bolshy and boisterous with people, and that would cause a problem. And that Julian would be the guy that kind of tried to smooth it over. I actually think the players quite like Tapper and Julian. Obviously, we talked a lot. We've talked a lot through the season about the players not being happy. It's now being borne out. You know, it's sad. I just think it's really sad that a player, 21-year-old player that's come to a new club, trying to make his way, and the manager's not giving him the time of day to try and help him become a better person and a better player. But look,
there is one last thing I'll say to that is I think in any construction of an opinion, there's three parts to it: Mason's, Tim's, and the bit in the middle, which is a mixture of the both and probably nearer the truth. I totally get that. There has been a change in nature of the football dynamics of what's acceptable and what isn't. I think for the better. I still do think, though, and it's not a case of this generation of your younger players being quote unquote soft, because that's as terminology, I've never liked that anyway. But football's a brutal industry. It's results based. It's immediate with your feedback of good, bad, or indifferent. I do believe you have to be built a certain way, and whether that, I mean, there's a whole other podcast about how that potentially impacts emotional development in young. If we're specifically talking about male football in young adult males, because you are thrown into something where it is sink or swim, and a lot of them sink and get chucked out and are on the scrap heap, have to find something else. So you have to be built. There has got to be a bit inside you there. I mean, I'm trying to think of the word that I could use. It's not a swear word. Where there's got to be a horrible streak to get through that throng of people that want to do exactly the same job and in exactly the same place. So there is, maybe Tim's got a foot in the camp of, well, it's your job, it's your profession, get on with it. If you're not in the team, play better. If you're not making the right decisions, start making the right decisions. There'll be maybe a bluntness that may be lost in translation, and that's not me vouching for him ruling with an iron rod or whichever way he did it. But I just think there's got to be an evolution of how you get more out of players and how you get more out of players in this day and age, because there is so many different emotional strands to getting top level performance out of a player. But if it is completely true what Mason said, I'm not saying it's not, but if he's not getting any feedback, because that's another good thing about young players nowadays. All the coaches tell me they are desperate for feedback. Talk to me, which as a vocational fundamental, I think is tremendous, isn't it? A young person wants to be better at job, wants to be better at career. Surely as a manager, you're going, yes, bring it on, mate. Let's do this, let's do that. Stop doing that. I like it when you do that. That should be music to a coach's ears. But that music possibly isn't listened to when the team's not playing well. You're spiraling down the division, and everyone's questioning what you're like as a manager. Maybe there'll be so many factions in it, but if he has had a bit of a dark cloud over him that's potentially going to be lifted by a new manager, then fingers crossed that pushes the players on to be able to perform.
And Andy Dawson will be one of the perfect people,
amazing,
won't he?
Yeah,
amazing. Andy Dawson is an incredible human being. He's just one of the nicest people you can have in football.
Yeah,
an arm around the shoulder, experience with the younger squads. And, you know, even though he's not going to be the manager going forward, unless something miraculous happens, the squad have got a really nice, good individual there.
Yeah.
And, I mean, we've run out of time, haven't we, to speak about tactical tweaks and things that Andy brought on. But he did try and add a couple of different things in the Middlesbrough game. It didn't work, but at least he showed that he tried to change things. Maybe had to listen to the players.
And this, Burnsy, just quickly, this week will be important for them. You know, we'll see how the manager situation plays out, but that's away from what is the job in hand at the minute for Dawson. for Connor Sellers, Billy Clark, and the rest of the coaching staff this week is to get that team well drilled. Forget what's going on with the manager because they can't affect that. It is get on the training pitch. You've got a clear week now. Thankfully, there's no game going into Blackburn on Saturday. They have to win. That is a must-win game. Must-win game at this stage of the season. 19th game of the season. They have to win that game, and hopefully the Doors can, and his staff can work with the players. Get some organisation into them. Maybe play Burstow up front on it as a 9. Give him a chance. He scored a goal. See, right? Okay, you've scored a goal. Something the others aren't doing. Go and lead the line now and see what you can do at home.
Get me another one.
Yeah, exactly. Burnsy, you were going to say something.
No, it's all right. I was going to come with something on Andy Dawson, but it'll save for another time. I'm looking at the time. Time to go.
Exactly. Just quickly, FA Cup breaking away from the manager situation and the bleak situation in the Championship. FA Cup draw Monday night. So by the time a lot of people listen to this, the draw will have been made for the third round, which is I think around the 11th of January. I think City haven't bothered to turn up in the last 3 or 4 years in the FA Cup, so it would be really nice to have a bit of a run or a glamour tie. Burnsy, who would you like? Pointless question, but a question.
Well, I think the fans would like a trip somewhere they've not been. Maybe a non-league away or something like that. In the FA Cup, I just want to see a strong side. I just want to see a strong side. I want to see the manager, whoever it is, take it seriously. All right? Because I'm sick of 8 changes and all that gubbins.
I'm sick of the Championship at home, Burnsy, in the FA Cup. Sick of it.
Non-league away. Day out, somewhere different.
Anfield away for me. Anfield away.
Christ.
That's just because of your girlfriend.
Yeah, we don't want that because I'm not sure that's what you want as a potentially new manager coming into a new job and Liverpool away with a team hit by injuries and no confidence. But anyway, Prutts.
All right.
Need a market from what Fletch says. I think City need to go to need a market.
Bring him in for the third round. Chuck Derby out and put need a market in. Right, on that bombshell, FA Cup draw on Monday night. Keep an eye out for that. Obviously, if there's any developments with the managerial situation, and we hope there will be over the next few days, but we'll have to wait and see. We'll obviously keep you up to date. We might have an emergency pod at some point if an appointment is made in the ahead of Blackburn. But if there isn't, we'll be with Andy Dawson and a player, and then we've got the annual hospital visit after the press conference, and then Blackburn obviously at home on Saturday. So thanks for everybody's comments. We do read them all if we don't get a chance to read them out. Burnsy, thank you. Fletch, thank you from your dark cupboard again.
Cheers for baiting everyone there, Baz, with emergency pod.
And Prutts, as always, a pleasure.
My pleasure, chaps.
Oh, it's lovely, isn't it? Thanks, everybody. Have a good week, and we will talk to you again soon.